Good evening and welcome into a new edition of Sports Bar. I'm your host Travis Stanley, and today I have with me panelists Greg, Jack, and Sam. Guys, we open today's show taking a look here at the App State and Monroe game from this past weekend. App State was able to rack up a 42-17 win, rushed for a season-high 429 yards, and Marcus Cox finally gets that record that he would have otherwise set early on in the year if not for the injury, but finally breaks the school rushing record. And there's still an outside chance for a three-way tie for first place. That is if Arkansas State were to lose to UL Lafayette. Either that or we can always be outright second if Troy were to lose again and Arkansas State were to win. I doubt that will happen. That being said, impressions of this weekend's game, Sam?
Yeah, I thought it was a really good game all around for App in less than preferred conditions. The wind was really whipping, and you wonder how much of an effect that played on the team from Louisiana coming up into the mountains and everything. But I thought it was a great game all around. Jalen Moore and Marcus Cox both rushed for over 100 yards. Taylor Lamb really just kind of came out firing there in the first half, throwing the ball really well, like he has for most of the season, just putting up not exceptional numbers in the passing, but just solid numbers all around.
Yeah, and it surprised me that he was able to throw the ball at least as well as he did early on, given the conditions, Greg.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think Louisiana Monroe did have some success in moving the ball, but they just couldn't keep up. I mean, App was averaging 9 yards a play. The first 4 drives, they were successful and touchdown on 3 of them. So they came out strong, and then they continued to be strong throughout the game. I think the fact that they chose rushing game as opposed to a passing game was partially because of the wind, for sure. But this didn't end up being overly competitive, I think, as a game.
Yeah, and you talked about they finished strong. Well, they'll need to finish strong for the rest of the season. They finished the year at New Mexico State, and yes, New Mexico State has not had a very good year, but if they want to put themselves in the position for a potential three-way tie, they will obviously need to take care of business and hope to get a little luck. But really quick, just your impressions of, the New Mexico State game. Again, New Mexico State has really struggled this year, and do you think the Mountaineers will be able to get the best of them?
Yeah, I do. I mean, it's a road game. It's way out there. But I think all in all, New Mexico State doesn't have quite the caliber of team that we do, and we've had our troubles in the season so far. This past game was a great bounce back game for Appalachian, and I think they should be able to take care of business.
It's also worth noting New Mexico State, after this season, will be dropping back down to the FCS level along with Idaho, Greg.
Yeah. I mean, I think what we've seen consistently is that when it's in conference play, App plays very competitive football. The one hiccup in that was Troy, but I think, as we talked about last week, you give another quarter to a game like that, and you could have a completely different outcome. I don't really see App having a serious problem in that game. They don't have any new injuries, and hopefully won't have any, between now and then. So all of their key players are in the game. I don't really see that anything messing up that mojo.
Yeah, right now it's just basically focusing on the bowl game. I think they'll play a couple days before Christmas, and they'll know for sure who they're going to play.
Depending on which bowl game they land on.
Yeah. But had it not been for 4th and 6 against Troy, we're talking about a completely different scenario here. Appalachian would already have the conference locked up. Had it not been 4th and 6 against Troy with that gutsy call they had, ball down the sideline. There's still obviously a chance for a three-way tie. Scenarios are kind of slim in several different regards, but yeah, right now it's just kind of looking forward to the bowl game, and they should take care of New Mexico State. Not too much problems.
Yeah, and you mentioned that bowl game. No matter who we ended up, drawing in the bowl selections, I'm excited to go wherever because I really regretted not going to the Camellia Bowl last year. Yeah. That was such an exciting game, and even just watching it on television, honestly, I was pretty heavy-hearted there in about the second quarter of that game. Yeah. And then, late third quarter, particularly the beginning of the fourth quarter, they, completely turned it around. And they can't have an 11-win season like last year, but certainly a 10-win season at any level, no matter, I don't care what level of football you're playing. A 10-win season is certainly a great accomplishment. Yes. Braxton, we turn to men's basketball. Right now, the men's basketball squad is 1-2 on the year. It's early on. They opened the season with a close loss to Davidson. App was leading for the vast majority of that game. Davidson ended up closing it out late. Against Tennessee in Knoxville, that game was the deficit was pretty large until the very end. Young guys like Kevin Robinson ended up really closing the gap, made it a game in the last 3 minutes of the game. And then our first home game, the men they crushed Warren Wilson, which was to be expected. So I'm not really sure what we know about the team to this point, except for the fact that the youth movement on the squad right now has really caught fire. Guys like Patrick Good, the starting point guard right now for the squad, averaging almost 15, and Kevin Robinson, who I just mentioned, having a great season so far.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing that we do know is that App was projected to be 12th in the Sun Belt going into this season. But from what I've seen, I've been to 3 of their games now. They're going to be a little better than that. Their size is better than, even though we know they have a little more size than usual, they've got some good size on the inside, and their guards, like you mentioned, they have good guard play, and they're better defensively than we might expect. They do a really nice job denying penetration, but once penetration is allowed, sometimes the big guys down there are prone to foul. But I think we've got a good chance to have a good season as far as App goes, and the youth movement is nice. All the freshmen they have are all working together, and Pat Good is going to be a great player as his career goes on.
Yeah, we'll see how the season continues to play out for them. They play Hartford on Wednesday. That game is in Hartford, Connecticut. So if they could bring their record back to 2-2, really as long as the men don't falter too much in the non-conference, because usually, at least in the past 3 or 4 seasons, their overall record has really suffered in non-conference play. Once they hit conference play, it was more 500 basketball, and you saw some real growth there. But just as long as they, take the non-conference as it comes and get the wins when they need to. Hartford this Wednesday is definitely one of those wins that they need to get if they even want to be close to 500 entering conference play.
And right now, like the youth movement, they only have one senior, and that's Matt O'Boyle. He's not getting a ton of playing time. He's not even starting. So what we're looking at, transferred. He's a good player. Don't get me wrong. But what we're looking at is once he graduates next year, Appalachian's going to be pretty deep. The majority of the rotation players that are playing now are going to be back again next year. So you're looking at a good team in the next several years. Yeah,
Kenny Griffin will be the only senior next year who is currently even getting a ton of minutes. So I totally agree. Next year, I think they'll be that much more deep. But I still think they can definitely at least do better than that 12th in the Sun Belt projection. I think that was a lot based off last year's performance and the year before that. So we'll see how they can play the rest of the non-conference and then in Sun Belt play. But that will do it for men's basketball, and we will go to break. But before we do, let's take a look at this week's Rise segment.
Marcus Cox gets the start on senior day at running back, needs 138 yards to break the school's leading the all-time rushing record. They'll go to the air on first down, and Taylor Lamb finds Shea Metters across midfield. 2nd and 1 from the 36. First touch for Marcus Cox. Running room, spins off a tackler to the 30. Stays on his feet, 25, and all the way down to the 20-yard line. First and goal from the 1. Lamb to Cox, up the middle, pushing forward, getting into the end zone. Redshirt freshman running back providing a spark here on this second drive. Gets the handoff again, and this time he's dropped behind the line of scrimmage. 3rd and 7, Evans to the air, in the pocket, lobs it over the middle. It is caught and then knocked away. Dante Jones in motion, pistol formation, Lamb play fakes. Wants to fire over the middle, has a wide open Ike Lewis. Ike to the 30, Ike Lewis to the 20, angling to the left, Lewis to the 10, dives, that's an App State touchdown. Evans shotgun with Kofi the running back. Pump short to the left, being chased from behind and dropped by Eric Boggs. Cox exits, Moore stays in. Lamb's going to give to Jalen. Great stop and start in the 32 and reverses it outside to the left across the 40. Jalen Moore to the 45, gets a block on the edge from Capel. 3rd and 2 after the penalty. Cox up the middle, big hole. Cox to the 30, reverses it left side to the 20. Stops at the boundary, gets inside the 10, stays on his feet all the way down to the 7-yard line. 4th and goal, offense on the field. Shotgun to Lamb. He'll throw to the left. It is caught by Barrett Burns, stretches forward, and that's an App State touchdown for Barrett Burns. Jalen Moore and Marcus Cox both starting in this formation at running back. Moore gets the handoff up the middle to the 25. Jalen Moore to the 30 and 40. Right sideline, he gets near midfield. First and goal from the 5. Lamb, handoff up the middle. Marcus patiently running his way toward the goal line. He powers his way in, and that's an App State touchdown, the second of the game for the senior Marcus Cox. Two-back set for first and 20. Lamb's going to run the option right, keep it himself. Gets inside the 35 to the 30. Lamb with a great move to the 20. Taylor Lamb down the left sideline. He'll take it in. That's an App State touchdown for Taylor Lamb. A 35-yard thing of beauty. And the Mountaineers are on the board again. Caleb Evans going to flare out a screen pass to the left, and it's broken up. First and 10 from the ULM 25. Lamb gives to Marcus Cox running up the middle to the 20. Marcus to the 15. There's a run for the record books and an App State touchdown for App State's all-time leading rusher, Marcus Cox. Go for it on 4th and 7. Evans shotgun, retreats, scrambles out to the right. Under pressure, gets away, throws it to the end zone, and it is intercepted by the Mountaineers. Their first pick of the game is A.J. Howard for the second straight week. Picks one off, and the Mountaineers force the turnover.
Keep up to date with the Black and Gold on and off the field by following the Mountaineers on Twitter at @AppState_FB.
We are really pushing our students to think about things from a local to global standpoint, and I enjoy teaching those classes. It certainly cements everything that I believe in, that I think is important. I'm passionate about sustainability. I'm passionate about fresh water and protecting it. When you've got, the number of faculty that we do living that sustainable life, demonstrating to our students, they realize it's not just something we're saying in the classroom, it's in everything we do here. It's part of who we are.
Welcome back into Sports Bar, and right now we are jumping right into the NFL. Guys, this past Thursday, the Panthers were able to limp to a 23-20 win. They almost did the same thing 2 weeks in a row. Get up, looked pretty comfortable, looked like they're playing pretty good football, and then for whatever reason, take their foot off the gas. They had to make sure that they held on later in this game. Injuries were a storyline for really both squads. The most notable injury for the Panthers obviously being Kuechly. That was really just a bad-looking injury. I think a lot because that they were crying on the side or crying there on the field. I'm not sure if it was if it was actual injury or I know sometimes with concussions that can actually jar your emotions in that way. But impressions of the Panthers' victory over the Saints. Again, somewhat of a sloppy game. Braxton.
I think the main thing from the Kuechly statement was maybe he was crying just because of the severity of the injury. He knew that maybe I'm going to be out for the rest of the year, and most likely he will. But yeah, as far as impressions on the game go, it's just the Panthers when they got the lead because they were able to pass the ball enough to be able to get them some room. That's because the running game has been non-existent. The offensive line has not gotten any. Really, they haven't pushed for any holes at all for Stewart.
Ryan Khalil still being out certainly doesn't help.
Ryan Khalil, Michael Lore still out, which is not what you would expect. Yeah. You don't need injuries on your offensive line. So that also affects the passing game because Cam can't get any time. Yeah. But they were able to get the lead simply because the Saints just weren't able to keep up for some reason. Because the Saints have always been a good offensive team, but they weren't that in the first half. And then something changed. And as soon as the Panthers took off the gas a little bit, and the offensive coordinator called some questionable calls, they let them get back into the game, but they were able to hold on just by a little bit. So.
I think this was another game where if you watched the first half and then the second half, you were watching two completely different games.
2 weeks in a row.
And the first half, the Panthers had left it with a 23 lead, and then they just sort of got sloppy, for lack of a better term, in the second half. The injuries definitely didn't help. I think the only reason they managed to pull it off is that turnover where they blocked a kick and managed to turn it into a touchdown. That, to me, if you don't have that play, you didn't have the win.
Yeah. A win is a win. I know it's said a lot, but this is just, to me, a game where you dominate so much of the game and then you take your foot off the gas, like we've said, that's not necessarily, to me, a problem with the players as much as it is the coaching. I think that's the coaches seeing a lead and getting conservative on defense, not calling as many, dropping into zone and allowing the quarterback time to work. And with a quarterback like Drew Brees, you don't really want to allow him a lot of time to work. So I think the Panthers, they are lucky to have gotten out with a win this past week. They have the long week now, so they can take time, maybe get some of those guys that are injured back. Ryan Khalil, who knows when he'll be back, But yeah, I think it was really a lack of focus on the players. You have injuries to someone like Luke Kuechly, who he might be the most valuable player to your team. He's certainly one of the most valuable players on your team. You have an injury like that can take the focus away from the game. But I think a lot of the blame lies with the coaches not staying focused and staying hard, nose to the turf on this.
Yeah, and I think this win this past Thursday, listen, it's certainly going to be an outside chance to make the playoffs and to be a wild card. But this win this past Thursday at least saved some hope. Now, obviously, you're going to have to put a run together with all the injuries and with the way they've been playing for a large part of the season. Frankly, that looks doubtful right now. But a win or a loss against Kansas City and then following that up with another loss against the Saints, based on the rest of the schedule they play, which is certainly not the easiest schedule to finish the year in the NFL, getting this win at least saved some hope. But I feel like the Panthers will certainly have to get healthy if that were to be the case.
Yeah, you lose the Saints game, season's over with at that point. Right now, there's still an outside chance. I'd say, on my assumptions, I say you have enough room to lose one more game, and you've got to win the rest of them. But like you said, you've got a tough schedule. You've got to play in Seattle. You've got to play in Oakland, and two teams are playing very well right now.
I mean, catching the Raiders on a year that they're actually
I think the
worth
Raiders
something.
are 7-4, and then the Seahawks are 7-2-1 or something. So both of them having a good year, and then you've got some other tough games in there as well that wouldn't typically be tough games, but because of the way you're playing, you just never know. So at this point in the season, you have an outside chance, but you really only have enough room to lose one game. Yeah. That's it.
And really quickly, before we have to move on, Steve Smith, former Panther, becomes just one of the third active player right now to have 1,000 catches, and he's the first ever player under 6 feet tall. He's 5'9". He's the first ever player under 6 feet tall to have 1,000 catches for his career. So I just thought that was an interesting little factoid. But moving on, every week we love to show you some of our sports teams and how they're performing throughout the season. And our producer Carlin and contributor Fraser have the latest about our baseball team. Take a look.
I'm Travis Holden. I'm a junior this year, and I pitch. I'm a right-handed pitcher. So. Pretty tough. A lot of running, a lot of pull-ups. Main thing that comes to my head. Just basically seeing what your body can do for you.
My name's Kermit Smith. I'm the head baseball coach at Appalachian State University. I've been here for about 3.5 months. I'm from Arcadia, Florida originally, and went to school at Pfeiffer University in Eisenhower, North Carolina. I plan to work extremely hard every day. Our coaching staff's done a tremendous job over the course of the last 3.5 months. Being on the road, identifying the best players that we possibly can to come to Boone, North Carolina to get us to Omaha.
My name is Brian Bout. I am a senior at Appalachian State. I am an outfielder, and I've been playing here since freshman year. Coach Smoot's a great guy. He definitely didn't skip a beat when he came in. He started coaching right away. I'm looking forward to the season as much as I've ever looked forward to the season. This is my senior year. I don't get another one. This is it for me, and I'm just looking forward to it and playing with these guys one last time. It's all about mental toughness, and it's all about pushing yourself past what your body wants to do. It's not easy, I'll say that. But yeah, it's every Tuesday is Mental Toughness Tuesday, and we get after it out here. I've made some lifelong friendships here with these guys that I wouldn't trade for anything in the world.
Welcome back to Sports Bar. Now we're going to jump right into our fantasy football scores for this week. Fellas, opening comments just about your squads?
Another good week for me. My comeback train just keeps on rolling. I had a pretty easy week this week, but I'm excited. I'm just going towards the playoffs now.
Greg, Mr. Steady, Mr. Reliable down there?
Well, Green Bay has not been reliable. That defense for the second week in a row got me negative points. So thank God the Broncos are off bye next week. I can put them back up there. But otherwise, of course, Drew Brees' worst week this year is this week. So yeah, Drew Brees didn't perform for me. Luckily, I got the win. But yeah, it was some of my players didn't perform as well as I would have expected.
Yeah, but we'll go ahead and jump to our individual matchups for this week, and we'll take a look at those. And Greg, this is your matchup, and like I said, usually you're very reliable. 77, you're not crushing it, but you're certainly doing enough to probably get the win this week.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, we still got Crabtree to play. Some players that I'd expected some more out of. Reed, I'd expect a little more out of him, but obviously not a ton there. But yeah, hoping for more out of the defense next week. That's for sure.
Really, just just as long as it's not negative points out of your defense.
Yeah, even if it was just zero,
because in a competitive week, -7 out of your defense probably is the difference,
Yeah.
And that's something to think about come playoff time. We were talking about playoffs last week, but you'll certainly get the win this week, and we'll see if Crabtree can't pad your stats tonight. But we'll go ahead and move on to the next matchup here. And this is producer Rob and Carlin's matchup. Guys, taking a look, down here, the Des Bryant 20. That jumps off the page. The fat Cam Newton, has 11. Certainly doesn't jump off at you. Kelvin Benjamin had a very mediocre 5. Doug Baldwin did have a good game with 14, but what do you think was working here for Carlin, and what wasn't working here for Rob?
I think this is the battle of the flex positions. It looks like nobody else really no other production anywhere on the board from either teams. But yeah, Des Bryant edges Doug Baldwin. Doug Baldwin had a good game for himself, but even then, it's just, I don't know. It's tough to say. Not an exciting game to watch, I would say.
Yeah, and also Hopkins on the screen, it's a question mark. That being said, Hopkins did finish with 6 in that game, just so we know. So not that was a necessarily game changer, but just noting that. But yeah, so assuming Carlin is able to pull this one out, which she already has the win because she's the only person to have someone left to play. Just Lamar Miller left to play. That isn't. It's 0 up there, but he's yet to play.
Right.
So she'll win. She'll improve to 6-5. She'll keep pace with one another with me in the East Division. Rob will drop to 5-6. But for the most part, as far as the standings go, we're clumped together right there. No one has. Sam. You're doing well. Greg, you are too. But as far as real distance, it's not like anyone has really put a ton of distance amongst one another. So come playoffs, that'll be interesting to see. We'll go ahead and move on to our next matchup. And taking a look here, Sam, Tom Brady. Edelman certainly helped you out here.
I think this is his best game of the season.
But really,
so
the one that stands out to me is the Minnesota defense. Man.
Yeah.
No matter what defense you have, and the Minnesota defense had really kind of fallen off. During that losing streak. Well,
they had a 100-yard pick 6 at one point. I think they actually
ended up the longest play from scrimmage this year.
Yeah, I think they ended up getting 2 touchdowns with their defense or their defensive special teams. So yeah, anytime you get.
And and side note, but Xavier Rhodes had that 100-yard pick six for Minnesota. And if you pick the ball off, return it for 100 yards for a touchdown, now he did the right thing. He just went ahead and handed the ball to the referee. I'm high stepping from the 40-yard line.
Yeah.
If I pick it off at the 1-yard line or in the end zone and take it back, yeah. But just anyway, the Minnesota defense certainly played excellent in this game. Braxton, Greg, do you have comments about? I mean, still playing Peterson here, but
Always a bold choice.
Always a bold choice.
I mean, they could be disguising his injury. He'd just be on the sidelines, no ACL at all, and then eventually he's going to come out there and blow somebody away. So you gotta play safe here. You gotta always have him in your lineup because you never really know.
I think they're just saving him for the playoffs, because they probably will sneak into the playoffs. Right now, the Minnesota is 6-4, so they'll probably make the playoffs, and they're just waiting for playoff. Either the wild card weekend or week one.
Yeah, we're just searching for answers here.
Yeah. And so is Adam. I mean, Adam's just waiting.
I don't think he's searching for answers. I think he's asking a lot of questions.
I mean, say what you will, starting Adrian Peterson, but this ends a 3-game win streak for him. He was on a 3-game win streak.
I know. And I was one of those wins. But anyway, I digress, and we'll move on to our final matchup here. And this was my matchup. I was playing Jack, who's good enough to run camera this week, and I accidentally announced that Jack was on the show today. And Braxton, I want to apologize to you. Right. But anyway, taking a look at this game, Mariota, I went with him over Luck. I mean, they were playing one another this week. Mariota, had a very good week. The previous week, it's not like Indianapolis had really been lighting it up this whole season, defensively or offensively, but particularly not on the defensive side of the ball. So I decided to go with him. I wasn't sure if McCoy would play. He was still listed as questionable. He played the week prior, but that doesn't necessarily mean anything. I was happy that he actually he played, and Le'Veon Bell had a good week. But Jack can still get the better of me. Amari Cooper, he's questionable, but he'll most likely play in Monday Night Football tonight. And he's went for plus 20. Cooper has, I think, at least 3 other times this year. Yeah. And he's got a quarterback. Yeah. In Derek Carr. So.
Jack has that quarterback on the bench. If Jack could have started Derek Carr this week, who knows?
That could have been double points.
Yeah.
I ended up going with Stafford, but right now, fingers crossed. I like my chances, but certainly Cooper, guys, is a capable player of having a plus 20-point week.
Yeah, definitely a chance there.
Yeah, and also Blair Walsh right now is not on a roster, so I don't know if the kicker would have done me any good. But he's not a Minnesota Viking anymore. So that is something I'll need to address.
Well, you never know. He might just suit up one day for a random team and go kick. Right?
I mean, chances of him getting picked up are probably pretty good because kickers, kind of like quarterbacks, they just rotate around the league and they kick till they're 47. Yeah. So it's not like it really matters, but I'll need to address that. But guys, closing thoughts here, fantasy. Braxton, do you have other leagues? I know you're not in our league.
No, I'm actually not doing very well in other leagues.
Oh man, okay.
I think I've only won 2 or 3 games.
Yeah.
I kind of forgot about it last week. I was kind of being the Adam Witten of my league.
Yeah. Right now,
it's fun,
Yeah. I'm the Adam Witten of the WASU league right now, and I got guys pressing me every week. Hey man, you got some quality guys on the bench right now. Why would you drop them? And it's like, I'll slip you some money. I'm like, hey man, I don't think that works with league rules. But yes, certainly putting all my efforts behind this league. But anyway, that will do it for this week's show. Thank you for joining us tonight, and join us next week for a all-new edition of Sports Bar. Have a good night and happy Thanksgiving.